Hi families, this is Mark Cantor from South Florida Intervention, and I want to do a video today on how to pick treatment centers. Most of the time, or a lot of times I should say, when I'm doing an intervention, I'll be contacted by a treatment center where a family will know what treatment center they want to send their son or daughter to. Sometimes there are strong recommendations, and those are great because then we have a lead and we know what to follow, or if a family's already made a decision on where their son and daughter is going to treatment, a lot of that unknown quantity is already accounted for, and that's great. But there are times when you're starting fresh. You don't know where you're going to send someone, and you're tasked with having to go through the person's insurance, find out which treatment centers are in network, and then determine which treatment center is best for your client's son or daughter. So I recently had that task, and it's kind of hard. I mean, there are 1,000 treatment centers out there. So if you're a parent and you're sitting down at the computer, and you're saying, I want to find the right treatment center for my son or daughter, it's just really difficult, and it's really frustrating. I mean, one of that is because the Google ads are all over the place. You put in treatment centers in New Jersey, and you get treatment centers in Florida and Colorado and California, and who knows. And most every treatment center you look at or speak to will say they have a track for what you're looking for. So say you have a 16-year-old daughter who's smokes marijuana every day but also has an eating disorder. So you call a treatment center. You tell them this is the situation, and they say, oh great, we deal with substance abuse, which okay, great. And then they say we have a track for eating disorders. And it's confusing because while they may have a track for it or they may be informed, it's not precisely what they do. So it's really difficult if you're a parent and you're coming at this fresh, or you're looking for your loved one and you don't have prior experience with finding treatment centers. It can be really confusing out there. So what do I do in these cases? So recently I was tasked with finding a treatment center for the son of a client who had I would call it kind of a smaller insurance policy. I don't know how else to say it, but it was a smaller insurance policy. So what I did, and they had out-of-state benefits. I don't think they had out-of-network benefits, but they had out-of-state benefits, which is something you want to know before you start calling treatment centers. You check with your insurance carrier. There's two questions you want to ask them. Do I have out-of-state benefits? Do I have out-of-network benefits? So this person had out-of-state benefits. So what I did is I went to the website of this insurance company, and it had a couple of drop-down screens, and I picked behavioral health and then substance abuse rehabilitation centers. And it gave me 168 results. So, wow, that's a lot. Where do you start? So what I did was I knew that the parents wanted to get their son out of Florida. They want their son to be away from home, away from his normal friends, away from his normal routine. They want him to, in a way, and I look at it like this, take a pilgrimage, go somewhere and work on himself. And I agree with that. I like when people go away for treatment. So that eliminated a bunch. Then there are a bunch of treatment centers in this list that they just seem to be outpatient and counseling centers, so we eliminate those. So maybe we get down to 25, 30 treatment centers, and still a lot of treatment centers to call. And unless you recognize one on the list. Often when we work with a family and we get an insurance, I will look at the list and I will recognize one or two of the treatment centers, or I can put a list together, the remaining 20, and send an email out to a bunch of people and say, hey, does anybody have any experience with these treatment centers? And I'll get some feedback, which is great because I'm not going completely blind. But let's say, for example, you're starting fresh and you don't know a treatment center is the best fit for your son or daughter, and you don't want to make the wrong decision because, what if you make the wrong decision and they come out of the treatment center and they drink, or they pick up again, and you've wasted all that money and, the emotional toll. We want to make the right decision. That is not to say that your son or daughter's sobriety is based on the decision you make. It has been my experience that you can send someone to the most expensive treatment center there is, $50,000, $80,000 a month, and it doesn't do anything. And you can send someone to a treatment center that's $10,000 a month, and the person gets sober. It's just where they are at that point in their life. It's their level of willingness to invest themselves in their program and their sobriety. So don't beat yourself up too much about making the right decision. Just do the best you can. So I get down to like, I guess, 25 treatment centers. And what I did was I go to the websites because I want to see the websites. I'm a very visual person. I want to see pictures. I want to see what the campus looks like. And I definitely want to see what the staff looks like. So that's one of the first things I do is I go to the, it's usually in the About Us. And I go down and I look at the staff, and I want to see pictures of the individuals, group pictures. I want to see who these people are that are running the treatment center and maybe read a little bit about them. I want to get a personal feel for them. The second thing I do is I go to the bottom of the website, usually the homepage, go to the bottom, and I want to see that they're members of one or two organizations that are basically the good housekeeping seal of approval. So NATAP is one of them, the National Association of Addiction Treatment Providers. JACO is another one, that's JACO, and then CARF is also a third one. So I want to see that they have membership in these organizations, because these organizations do, especially JACO, they do a background search. They kind of they audit these treatment centers, and basically they're saying, whatever this treatment center is saying, we confirm that to be true. Okay, with that's my perception of it. I don't know exactly what they do. I think they look at books. I think they look at cases, interviews, things like that. So I think that's a good start. But still, then what you have to do is, what I do is I call the treatments. So I'll eliminate treatment centers based on that. So if they don't have these good housekeeping seals of approval, I'll eliminate it. If they don't have pictures of the staff and talk specifically about staff members, I'll eliminate it. And again, this is all about treatment centers that I don't know. If I knew one and I experienced with one, that's different. So, quick drink here. And I talk to them, and I ask questions. So like one of the questions I ask is, you call a 1-800 number, and you get their admissions. And I ask questions like, how long that person has been working for that treatment center. They've been there a few years, 6 years, 7 years. That's good. I like that. I ask them, have they themselves been through that program? And the reason I ask that is a lot of people that work in the treatment field are also sober, and they've been through treatment themselves. So I ask them about their experience. If they say, yeah, I went through this program 7 years ago, and this is my experience, that's great. That's a great endorsement. I'll ask questions about, like, what is their technology policy? I'll ask how many beds do they have. It's kind of a standard question in this industry. It gives you a sense of the size of the treatment center. But more than that, I want to know how many beds they have. How many of those beds are occupied right now? I want to know what their census looks like right now. And so they say, usually it's 90%. I'm just giving a number. 90% is a good number. There's usually some couple of beds that are available. So it's okay, well, out of that 90%, out of that, call it 25 people that are there, how many are men, how many are women? I want to know that. So, okay, that's what it looks like. I'm starting to break it down. And then I want to know what age groups there. So if I have like a 21-year-old male client, I want to know, does the population of that treatment center look like my client? Because I don't want him going to a place that it's all adolescents, so they're too young, and he's not going to feel like he fits in, or they're too old. Like they serve an older population, 40s and up. Probably not a good fit for him either. So I am looking for that. And I've had the same where I'm looking for a treatment for a woman in her 50s, or a man in his 60s, or somebody in their 30s. I want to find a treatment center that has a population that I think my client's son will identify with. So that's one of the things I do. But I do talk it out. I mean, also, I forgot, let me go back. Really important is when they pick up the phone, you want to ask them right away, confirm they are in network with the treatment, with the insurance company that you're working with, your client's insurance company, because they may be listed on the insurance company's website, but they dropped them, they're not there anymore, they're just not taking their insurance anymore because they have a bad deal worked out with whatever reason. So if you don't have out-of-network benefits, and I suggest you look at in-network benefits first. If money's not an issue, that opens up a whole other level of options. But we're not really talking about that. We're talking about kind of the average family that's putting money together to get their son and daughter into treatment. And being conservative with what they spend is important. It is important for most families. I know it would be for me as well if I were sending a loved one to treatment. So I want to confirm that right away, because if they're not, move on. At the end of the day, if you get a list of 3 or 4 treatment centers that you really like, that you feel comfortable with for some reason, you take it to the next level. Ask to speak to the clinical director. Set up a call. Can I talk to the medical director, the clinical director, the executive director, somebody who's been there, somebody who runs the program. Tell them about your situation, about your son, your daughter, your loved one, and just listen. And when you ultimately feel comfortable with the right treatment center, I think you'll know it. So then what I want to do is I want to get a good understanding of what some of the costs are, because there's the I'm not always convinced that what the treatment center quotes in the beginning is actually going to be the right number. So for example, I'll ask, so we want to find it. So each insurance company, each policy will have a deductible and then an out-of-pocket maximum. And we got to determine if they've met the out-of-pocket, met the deductible, things like that. And the all treatment centers will offer to run your benefits. It's kind of like walking into a car dealer and them saying, great, let's run your credit. Let's see what you qualify for. They want to see where you're at, because they don't want to waste their time either. It feels a little salesy, feels a little that way, but it's kind of a, an unfortunate truth of getting treatment. It's a large expense, and I think you got to get the financial piece worked out. So I really want to get a very clear understanding of what my out-of-pocket exposure is going to be for my clients. So in doing that this week, I spoke to one treatment center, and their quote was way different than all the other treatment centers. All the other treatment centers were saying that it was going to, for the first 30 days, was going to be in the door $4,000, $5,000. It was kind of like in that range. But then this one treatment center said, "Oh, in the door, $1,250." And I was like, that just didn't sound right to me. It sounded too cheap. And then I started poking around. And I liked the treatments. I liked the way it looked. I liked the website. I liked what I was seeing. I liked the conversations I was having. And I started to ask around, and then, I heard some things that caused me to eliminate it from the list, which I did, which was fine. So those are some things you want to, you want to look out for. Don't be sold by, fancy amenities. Just fancy extras. That's, you want to really hear about how this treatment program is going to take care of your kid, what they do. You want to hear some prior examples. And don't be afraid to ask. If you're down to 2 or 3 treatment centers and you really can't decide, and you're willing to do the work, don't be afraid to ask to speak to an alumni contact. If somebody called me about the Betty Ford Center, I'd be happy to talk to them about it. I know my wife would. I know my parents would as well. If they're not anxious to give out an alumni contact, they don't want you to talk to another parent, big red flag. The more they expose, the more that's in the open, the more the kimono is open, the better I feel about a treatment center. So that's really it. This is also becoming a long video, but I wanted to give you that rundown because I know that for a lot of parents, they start looking for their journey with getting their son or daughter the help they need starts on Google, right? Probably with everything nowadays. And you're going to start with that search, and don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. It's not, you don't have to have your son or daughter in treatment that day or in the next 24 hours. And unless, of course, they're in prison and in jail, and that's one thing, or they've been badly hurt in an accident, that's another thing. And if you can use somebody, some kind of consultant, an interventionist, or somebody who's just, really aware, like a therapist, maybe really aware of treatment options, talk to them. Any insight you can get is good. And also another thing, just in the wrap up, is there'll be a lot of comments on the internet about people's experiences with treatment centers. There'll be a lot of good ones, and then there'll be bad ones. Don't forget, there are treatment centers that see 1,000 patients a year, and I hear Julia's just kind of going loud. Out of that 1,000 people, there's going to be some that had bad experiences. I recently sent someone to a treatment center, in treatment center that I think is excellent, and I would send someone back again. But the individual went there. They really had no plan on staying sober, and they came back with big resentments, and they drank again. I can only imagine what their comments would look like, So you got to take it with a grain of salt. If it's all bad comments, I guess that's another thing. But anyway, take your time, do your homework, do your research. Don't be afraid to ask questions, ask to talk to people, ask about personal experiences, how long have you been there, all that stuff. Just really get comfortable. Don't be afraid to write it down. Don't be afraid to call back and say I have other questions. You're making a really big investment, not just of money, but you're putting the most important thing there, your son or your daughter. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up and just leave it at that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me at 202-390-2273. Again, 202-390-2273, or my website is southfloridaintervention.com. Anyway, thanks for watching this. Hope to get more content out to you this week. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.